Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and happy week too. I hope you are well, and I'm looking forward to looking over your work from week one and responding back to you about developing character and ethics in education. So, this week, just some quick housekeeping. We are going to be watching the video Character Education Contemplating the Most Important Values to Teach the Next Generation. And then you have three articles that you're going to be reading. How should we approach the ethical considerations of AI in K-12 education? Integrating Common Core and character education, why it is essential and how it can be done, and the varieties of character and some implications for character education. And looking in the look ahead section, remember that you have your historical timeline assignment due Sunday of week 3 and your adoption and implementation of a character education program, professional development to the faculty, due Sunday of week 4. And the first 2 weeks of this course are light, so I always say it's a good time to get a jump start on it if you'd like to get a jump start on it time wise. So, as I said in my first video, I really enjoy teaching this class and I really enjoy talking about this. Character and ethics is really important to me, as I'm sure it is to you. And there's always room for it in education, and it's something that I think is really valuable to make a child who can go out to higher grades or the college or sports or work and be a true, kind, and competent leader with emotional intelligence and empathy and hopefully boundaries in place and have a way to stand tall and none of us are flawless. Let's just start there. None of us are flawless. We are all profoundly flawed. We have all had experiences in our life where we feel we could have done better, or we think about it and we do the full cringe, thinking about what we did and oh, I wish I had handled that situation differently. I can think of so many times with my own children, who are now grown children, of course, but with my own children, where I was reactive instead of asking, instead of calling people in, instead of understanding where they came from, and then using that as a teaching moment or as a lesson, or being willing to share my truth, my experience of not doing something perfectly, and what I learned from that experience. And depending on what grade level you teach, littles, middles, or high school, you can pick your stories accordingly, what you share, how much you want to share, but ways to teach them, teach them what you learned from the things that, you didn't do perfectly in your world. And so, whenever you have those opportunities to build those into lessons, or whenever there's a moment, that arises in the classroom, I know that we're always in a rush to teach bell to bell, but we have to take the time, time out, time out, time out, and have those conversations because we don't know if those students are having those conversations with anyone else. Some people are not good about talking about things like this, and sometimes, our students are in homes where people are gone a lot, or they might not know what's going on, or they might not feel comfortable bringing it up. So then the adults, can't have that conversation with them. And I'm sure everyone in here has experienced, it was always easier for me to talk to my older sister or a trusted family friend than it was my mom or my dad when I was younger, because I was always afraid I was going to get in trouble first because they were reactive. And of course, then I learned that and had to practice that with my own children. So even in this day and age, my oldest is 40 and my youngest, oh my God, late 20s. Uh, I'm having to learn how to listen and not be reactive, and it's not always easy, as you know. Some of the things that I do in my classrooms with my people, including you, if you write me a message, you will know this when we build our relationship. Is I'm very I like to build community. And I think building community is so important in character and ethics, because if you don't build these relationships with your students, they're not going to feel comfortable asking you things when they need to ask things, and when have to correct them, they may not be able to take it in. And we're seeing such a lack of joy in education, and just the love of coming to school, the love of learning. So much, especially post pandemic, we're really having to build community after being so isolated. And so, meeting students at the door, talking to them, giving them nicknames that they love, joking with them, knowing something about their life, anything, building that relationship, that community. The more you build that in and create that trust and build that relationship, the easier it's going to be for you when you have to have difficult conversations with a student about character or ethics, especially if it's affecting your class or someone in your classroom. So that's a big one. And then I always, and I'm not perfect at this, okay, I can't say this enough, but I always show students how I recover after I have handled something poorly in class, or after I have handled something poorly on campus. And we've all had those days where we snap at someone or something happens, and we get triggered, and we don't handle the situation as well as we could have. Knowing when I need to take a time out, knowing when I need to say, well, let me think about that for a minute and step over to my desk and do something else and recover. But also when I'm not able to catch myself, um, you know, uh, especially with the high schoolers who sometimes like to antagonize, just to test boundaries. Sometimes I have to come back the next class and say, look, I'm sorry for my part, in this. I could have handled that better. And yeah, so I'll work on that. Not, but I was triggered, not, but you did, not, but this, just, I'm sorry. I really had a hard time with that. And I'm going to work on that. And thank you for letting me apologize. And then moving on. And they begin to see that adults are willing to work on themselves as well too. And if we as adults dig in, if we as adults are rude to others in front of them, if we as adults are gossiping about other colleagues in front of them, as we are as adults are saying inappropriate words within earshot of students, they're picking that all up and they're watching that too. And so, these are all things to consider. As far as sharing stories about your own life and your own truth, you have to decide what you're comfortable with, what you think matches within your curriculum and in your course and in your uh, level of age and education. So with high school, they're always very interested to know um, what I was like, when I was there. And I teach at the high school that I went to, so very welcome back, Cotter. But so they like to know what I did well, what I struggled with, um, those types of things. And I don't go into these big, massive, book long stories, but I share certain things that I could have done better, that I could have done better. So think about those things when you're thinking about character and ethics. Like, how are you going to share just general character and ethics with your students? How are you going to build that community? How are you going to become an ally and an advocate for that student's growth? And how are you going to keep that connection as they go on to other grades? Because they're going to need you. They're going to need you. So, food for thought as you go through week 2. And I will be making another video where I talk to each of you about what you wrote in week 1. And I'm looking forward to that. So, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.